picture every ancient Roman swathed in a pristine white toga, basically hobbling around like a giant gluten-free burrito. Thanks, Hollywood. That image has us convinced Romans sported togas everywhere, haggling over olives, defending lawsuits, maybe even punching a lion or two. But let's burst that toga bubble. The truth? Togas were to ancient Rome what tuxedos are to prom night. Strictly special occasion wear. Wearing one around town was the ancient equivalent of showing up at Trader Joe's in a ball gown. Sure, you'd get noticed. Mostly the "are you lost" kind. Try buying grapes while wrestling 10 feet of fabric away from eager geese. For your average Roman, tunics were the go-to. Think comfy t-shirt dress, not a bedsheet ready to unravel at every sneeze. The working class couldn't afford a wardrobe malfunction every time they hefted a basket of figs. Women had their own style star, the stola, a long, elegant dress. Togas on women? Only if you wanted to start the neighborhood rumor mill spinning. Not exactly Milan Fashion Week. Roman soldiers? No toga hour for them. Armor and practical gear made way better lion fighting outfits and left both arms free for conquering. Toga jousting? Not a thing. Probably for the best. That swirly white fabric said more than "I'm stylish." It shouted, "I'm a Roman citizen." Slaves and foreigners? No toga privileges for you. Wearing one daily was like rocking a graduation robe to leg day. Extra, sweaty, and guaranteed to raise eyebrows. So next time you see a crowd of toga-clad extras, remember, if Caesar had stuck to a tunic, he might have been just another face in the forum, and history would have been a little less dramatic and a lot less draped. While many imagine Romans in togas, their entertainment at the Colosseum was far more intense. Picture the Colosseum: sweat, sand, and a roaring crowd, thirsty for a fatal finale. Spears flash, swords clash, and everyone's craning to see who gets the thumbs down and who keeps their insides inside. Hollywood would have you believe every gladiator match ended in a bloodbath bigger than a Game of Thrones wedding. Here's the myth. Gladiatorial contests were gruesome, one-way tickets to the afterlife. Lose, you died. Win, you lived to fight, and maybe die another day. Simple, right? Not quite. Real Roman life was a bit less terminal. Gladiators were prized assets. Think less disposable action figures, more MMA fighters with investments, just missing the portfolio. Their owners poured precious denarius into training and upkeep. Defeat didn't automatically mean death. Often, matches ended with both combatants alive, sometimes after a draw, or thanks to a referee who clearly didn't want to deal with HR paperwork. Gladiators could surrender by raising an index finger, the ancient equivalent of tapping out or hitting pause on a bloodbath. The editor, the sponsor, held the ultimate call, weighing the fighter's skill, the crowd's mood, and probably stadium snack sales. Mercy, way more common than you'd think. Surviving records reveal most matches saw both fighters walking, or at least limping, away. If every contest had been a fight to the death, Rome would have needed endless beefy volunteers and a hiring department the size of the empire. Picture today's sports leagues with doomsday playoffs. Lose, you're toast. Not exactly the best recruitment pitch. After all, ancient unemployment lines were filled by ex-gladiators, not their ghostly counterparts. Beyond deadly battles, Romans also had unique dining habits during their feasts. Hook. Imagine eating so much at dinner, you need a designated sneeze zone for your stomach. Forget asking for the restroom. You want padded walls, scent diffusers, and maybe a discreet toga valet. Myth. For centuries, legends have claimed ancient Romans built special vomiting rooms, vomitoria, attached to their decadent banquet halls. The story: upper crust Romans, stuffed tighter than a sausage in a tunic, would waddle in, purge, then promptly return for round two of peacock tongues and honeyed dormice. If true, Roman dinner parties would be a calorie counter's nightmare. You're 14,000 calories over today. Good luck with that, facts. Here the truth smacks into a marble column. The vomitorium did exist, but as architecture, not a barf lounge. It was Roman crowd control genius, a wide passage in theaters or stadiums designed to disgorge thousands of fans after a show or disappointing lion mauling without causing a bottleneck. There's zero evidence of actual puking parlors for patricians between courses. Punch. So sorry to crash your toga party trivia, but the only thing ancient Romans evacuated en masse was a theater or the Colosseum after intermission, not last night's tapas. Bridge. In the end, if you need a strategic exit during dinner, blame the food, not Roman architecture. Turns out, the biggest threat to Roman dignity wasn't gluttony. It was getting trampled by a crowd sprinting for the amphitheater exits. Now that's an exit strategy. These lavish feasts were served with water from their advanced but hazardous plumbing. Imagine the mighty Romans conquering the world, marching legions, architectural marvels, toga parties that defined casual Friday. Yet their biggest nemesis wasn't the Gauls or the Huns. Nope, it was their own plumbing. Yes, those famous Roman aqueducts delivered water in grand style, and by grand style, I mean through lead pipes, plumbum as the Romans called it, which is exactly why plumbers aren't called copperers. Rome's ultimate pipe dream: clean water without a side of heavy metals. Fast forward a couple millennia, and you get this exquisitely bleak legend. Roman lead pipes drove emperors mad, turned the entire empire bonkers, and set it all on the road to ruin. After all, who but a lead-addled lunatic would appoint his horse to the Senate, right? Here's the kicker. While lead exposure is no spa day, the aqueduct water flowed so fast it barely lingered long enough to leach much lead. Plus, Rome's hard water formed a protective mineral crust inside the pipes, effectively creating a lead-flavored force field. If lead pipes caused insanity, half the Senate would have been frothing at the mouth. Unfortunately, historical evidence suggests their madness was fueled more by ambition than by plumbing. To be fair, chronic lead poisoning is no joke, especially if, like some Roman elites, you sweetened your wine with lead syrup, a vintage not quite FDA approved even then. Modern studies suggest the Roman upper crust may have consumed enough lead to make a dinner party go sideways, but most citizens enjoyed only moderate exposure. Drinking like a Caesar didn't require going mad, though the wine probably helped speed things along. So next time you curse your leaky pipes, remember, at least you're not sipping a vintage fortified with plumbum. Long live indoor plumbing, slightly less dramatic and infinitely less toxic. Despite internal health issues, Romans prided themselves on unity under the SPQR. SPQR, the snazzy signature stamped on every Roman curb and manhole cover, the Senate and Roman people. Sounds like Rome had its act together, right? With a motto this official and a logo slapped on everything from marble monuments to tavern napkins, surely those ancient Italians were strolling arm in arm through sunny forums, humming the imperial version of Kumbaya. But let's not get swept away by all that capital lettered swagger. SPQR stands for Senatus Populusque Romanus, Rome's fancy branding for everything from togas to tax bills. Textbooks love to glam it up as the world's first family crest, uniting all Romans in one glorious laurel leafed hug. In reality, less toga party, more family reunion food fight. Picture this: Rome was a melting pot of locals, conquered foreigners, eager immigrants, slaves, allies of convenience, and that neighbor who just wouldn't get the hint to leave. Getting them to high five over shared Roman identity was like herding house cats with laser pointers. Sure, the branding looked united, but regional grudges and social outcasts made togetherness mostly a tall tale. Conquered folks accepted Roman citizenship like kids begrudging broccoli, side eye and all, served with the ever present threat of eat this or else. Meanwhile, the Senate and common people loved a good public brawl. Civil wars were basically Rome's team building days, only everyone brought swords instead of trust falls. So, calling SPQR a beacon of unity? If so, then my gym membership makes me an Olympic athlete. The truth is, SPQR was the ancient world's earliest PR stunt, a reassuring slogan for a city more often held together by taxes than by warm and fuzzy feelings. Now that's a legacy worth carving in stone. However, that unity was tested during events like Emperor Nero's infamous reign. The image of Emperor Nero serenading Rome's flames with a violin is as iconic as it is utterly impossible. Picture this. As the eternal city ignited, Nero lounged on his balcony, channeling his inner rock star, not with a fire extinguisher, but with a concerto. It's a scene so over the top, even Netflix would slap a fiction disclaimer on it. Spoiler alert, Rome's earliest string section featured lyres, not fiddles. Had Nero actually whipped out a violin, his audience would have been royally confused. Romans were more into panpipes anyway. Let's rewind. This juicy tale started swirling shortly after the Great Fire of 64 AD, penned by chroniclers sharpening their quills on an emperor they loved to villainize. It's ancient history's ultimate meme, forever tattooed onto classrooms, TV dramas, and, let's be honest, probably a few Renaissance plays. The myth neatly gift wrapped every whiff of scandal and incompetence into one combustible package. But the facts are the best kind of party poopers. Nero probably wasn't even in Rome during the blaze. He was at his villa, likely plotting new haircut trends rather than urban renewal via arson. The only strings Nero pulled that day were political and maybe his own ego. More moderate historians suggest he rushed back, opened his gardens to the homeless, and threw some serious emergency aid to the crowds. So why does this fiery fable endure? Because blaming flamboyant leaders for disasters is history's favorite sport, and really, nothing screams negligent ruler like playing a lilting tune while your city turns into a barbecue. If only all PR meltdowns came with such catchy soundtracks. Under such rulers, the lives of many, including slaves, were often harsh and brutal. Picture every Roman slave as a toga clad extra in a never ending epic of misery, right? Hollywood and dusty textbooks want you to think every ancient Roman slave lived in a medieval horror show, minus the plague, but with plenty of woe. Brace yourself. Roman slavery, while undeniably grim, had more shades than a Pompeii fresco. Let's bust the myth of one size fits all suffering. Roman slaves came in many unhappy flavors. Sure, being worked to the bone in fields or mines was as brutal as advertised. Think endless sweat, cruel overseers, and fewer breaks than a caffeinated intern. Mining crushed any career hopes. The only ladder was the one for hauling rocks. But not every slave was chained to an oar, dramatically sighing into the ocean breeze. Some juggled ancient paperwork over physical labor, moonlighting as doctors, teachers, or hold on to your sandals, accountants wrestling with Rome's infamously tangled numerals. If you thought your boss was demanding, try managing another Roman's taxes and laundry. Life as a household slave wasn't exactly five-star, but it came with perks, less field work, the occasional bonus nap, and only sporadic encounters with menacing in laws. Their biggest hardship? Dreaming of less house, more hold. Meanwhile, mines and galleys totally earned their gold medal in misery, the Olympics of agony. Yet, there was a twist. A lucky few earned or bought their freedom, becoming freedmen who sometimes squirreled away enough coins for a cushy retirement as Roman citizens. Take that student loans. Roman hustle was real. So here's the truth. Roman slavery was a brutal institution, but too complex for a single horror movie filter. Think of it as a very grim soap opera, with plot lines ranging from tragedy to the occasional improbable triumph. The struggles within, including those of slaves, contributed to Rome's eventual downfall. Imagine waking up to find your entire empire swapped for barbarians. Great if you're selling beard oil, terrible if you're trying to keep the peace. One day you're a Roman senator, toga game strong. The next, your parties come with mystery meat and suspiciously foreign accents. Sounds like Rome hit snooze and woke up to barbarians rearranging the furniture, right? Not quite. Let's bust the myth of the great overnight collapse. Rome didn't set an out of office reply and vanish in a puff of imperial smoke. Barbarians didn't all show up with matching hats and picnic baskets in perfect formation. If Rome really fell overnight, those barbarians must have rented the fastest U-Haul history forgot to record. The truth? The fall was messier than a toddler in a fresco workshop. Endless invasions, an economy in free fall, political bickering that makes modern parliaments look like a yoga retreat, and, oh yes, citizens probably a little too fond of their lead-lined cookware. Rome's actual downfall took longer than your average bathroom remodel, which anyone who's lived through that knows is pure epic poetry. But don't cry for Rome just yet. Bits of the empire survived and even thrived under new management. These so-called barbarians weren't uncivilized brutes. They often had better beards, cooler branding, and, let's be honest, sometimes fresher ideas. Calling a Visigoth barbaric for not downloading your latest app is about as sensible as declaring civilization over because the Wi Fi's out. So, next time someone serves you the instant fall story, remember it's history's fast food, quick, dramatic, and about as nuanced as a microwaved meatball. The real Roman finale, a slow burn, an epic drama with more plot twists than your favorite binge worthy prestige TV show.